Effect snow that I think is going to come back into the picture. I know we're in a bit of a lull right now. Maybe that's a good time to get out, get some shoveling done before the second round starts to come in. But I don't think this second round is necessarily going to be as impactful in some spots, say, as what we saw earlier this morning. So we still have those lake effect snow warnings in effect for Ashtabula, Trumbull, Lake Geauga, Portage, Cuyahoga, and Summit counties. And then we also have that winter weather advisory that will remain in effect through early tomorrow morning, mainly because we still anticipate another round of some lake effect snow to drift back in. Certainly when you take this live look from our new Philadelphia camera, if you look closely, you can see a couple of those snowflakes still flying through the sky. And certainly this camera has been shaking a little bit because of the wind. The wind has been probably one of the more brutal aspects of this whole event because it creates those blizzard-like conditions in spots, and it lifts up that snow and it just allows it to reduce that visibility. We still have a pretty strong west wind right now. These are sustained winds, mainly between about 15 to 25 miles per hour or so on average, but we're still gusting upwards of 40 miles per hour. We had some wind gusts overnight last night that topped 60 miles per hour. So this has been a very impressive system as it's rolled through. Thankfully, we're in a little bit of a lull right now, but if you do have to be out and about, maybe you are getting a little bit of that cleanup done now, make sure you're bundling up. Air temperatures currently sit upper teens to about low to mid 20s, but when you factor in the wind, this is what it really feels like to your body. And for most of us, that's well into the single digits. So make sure you're covering up all that exposed skin. You're limiting some of that time outside if you can, just because it is still going to be pretty gusty as we go through the rest of this afternoon. And I wouldn't be surprised to see more lake effect snow, though it's going to take some time for that to develop. You'll see that northwesterly wind coming in about 20 miles per hour later today. That is going to help focus some of those lake effect bands, which have since kind of dispersed across our area, thanks to that westerly wind that we have, at least as of right now. But we'll watch radar closely as we go through the rest of this afternoon, because you can see all the Great Lakes are still churning up a lot more of that lake effect snow, and that is still a sign of what's to come for us as we go through the next several hours. We will walk you through what exactly you can expect for the evening commute tonight, plus into the overnight in just a few minutes. And of course, we'll always have the latest on First Alert Focus, so hopefully you can join us then.
Officially made its way to all over Northeast Ohio, it seems like. Let's get right back to First Alert meteorologist Erika Paige. Erika, what are we looking at?
Yeah, so a little bit more snow possible. And then once we get to the end of the week, well, that's when we finally start to see some improvements, especially in terms of kind of this wintry chill we've been dealing with the last couple of days. So we are keeping the 19 First Alert Weather Day going through tonight. Again, this is for mainly some lake effect snow that we still expect to work through parts of Northeast Ohio later today. And we're still dealing with some gusty winds, not to the magnitude of what we saw last night, but we're still talking wind gusts upwards of 40 miles per hour. That's going to be efficient still in reducing visibility. So wherever we get that lake effect snow to set up, travel impacts are expected, and I still can't rule out some power outages lingering across some parts of Northeast Ohio. I mean, we've just been kind of battered with some of these stronger winds that may have weakened some of our trees a little bit more. So if you get some of these continued wind gusts, well, that's when then you can be talking about that potential that you still have that power outage possible. So lake effect snow warnings, all the counties you see highlighted there in that teal shaded color, that's basically where we anticipate some of the worst effects of the lake effect snow by the time we get into the later part of today. We also have those winter weather advisories off towards the west, down towards the Youngstown area. That could also be an impact in terms of visibility out on the roadways once we kind of get into more of this lake effect later today. But you'll see it's been pretty scattered in terms of snow showers over the last, say, hour or two. We're really starting to just see a couple pockets develop in some spots. I would anticipate that will fill in here as we kind of go through the rest of this afternoon, but you'll see it's going to be pretty widely scattered snow showers for us. And because of that, mainly because of the winds, it's likely going to keep snowfall totals at least somewhat minimized. That may not be the case for everybody, but I do think for a vast majority of Northeast Ohio, that's kind of the scenario we're going to be faced with. Out towards the east, this is where we could get a more persistent band. And wherever that band waffles back and forth, that's where we could see some of those locally higher totals as we kind of go through the rest of the overnight tonight. So keep that in mind. When I show you your snow tracker here over the next couple of hours, you'll see generally about 1 inch to 3 inches. But know that if you get under one of those more persistent bands, certainly you could see some of those snowfall totals a little bit higher than that locally, but I don't anticipate widespread additional 4+ inches of snow as we go through the rest of this afternoon. The other key piece to this forecast is winds finally starting to subside a little bit. You'll see that northwest wind really taking over as we kind of go through the rest of the day today into tomorrow, but it's really going to be a lessening wind, and that's good news for us. We need a little bit of a break from that, and once that happens, drier air starts to arrive, and that will really limit any additional snow potential for us headed into the end of the week through early next week, and you'll see it's a very different pattern by the early part of the upcoming work week. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in just a few minutes.